The average price of brewed coffee in the US has surged over 25% in just 2 years. A cup that once cost around $2.50 now approaches $3.15 at many popular coffee chains like Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks. This seemingly minor increase might point to a much larger issue: a potential economic downturn. The United States inflation rate has reached its highest level in 40 years, according to new economic data. This has a big effect on everything from fuel to food and even our favorite morning coffee. This sharp rise in inflation hasn't been seen since the early 1980s, and it's putting a lot of stress on people's budgets across the country. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says that the Consumer Price Index, which is a key measure of how much everyday things cost Americans, went through the roof last year, rising by an amazing 7%. What does this trend mean for the economy now, though, and how does it relate to the economy in the past? Allow us to travel back in time to the Great Depression, a time when everyone in America was having a hard time with money. In the 1930s, when the stock market crashed, there was a shocking 25% jobless rate, a lot of bank closings, and a general lack of trust among consumers that hurt the economy for a long time. Even though the current situation isn't as bad as the stock market crash of the 1930s, the rising costs of everyday items remind us of the early signs of an economic downturn that we saw in those years, such as a drop in purchasing power and the threat of future economic uncertainty. What makes these rising costs a reason to be worried? First, the fact that wages haven't grown at the same rate as inflation stands out as a major problem. The unemployment rate has gone down since its peak during the pandemic, but statistics from the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis shows that real wages have gone down by about 2.4% over the past year when inflation is taken into account. As a result, even though people are working, the real value of their wages has gone down, making it harder and harder to pay for basic things like our favorite morning coffee. In addition, the economic instability made worse by changing market conditions and global unrest is similar to times before recession. The Roaring '20s, which happened before the Great Depression, were marked by risky investments and high consumer debt. They were similar to the economic boom that happened before the pandemic. When the bubble burst, it caused a long time of economic trouble. At the moment, experts from well-known financial publications like Bloomberg and the Wall Street Journal say that our current economic instability, which includes rapid inflation and problems in the supply chain, could be a sign of a similar threat of a recession. Looking at the rise in coffee prices and the bigger picture of economic factors affects more than just our morning routines. You can think of it as a small version of the bigger changes in the economy that could be leading to a new Great Depression. As we move through these rough times, understanding these signs will be key to being ready for and maybe even easing the effects of a bigger economic downturn. It's true that the price of your favorite Dunkin' Donuts coffee has gone up by almost 8% in the last year. This isn't an isolated event. It's part of a trend where Dunkin' has had to raise prices because of rising costs like labor and ingredients. This change is important because Dunkin' has long been praised for giving coffee lovers across the country great value and ease of access. Prices at Dunkin' Donuts are going up for more than just coffee. It includes everything they have to offer, from bagels to breakfast plates. For example, the price of a simple bagel with cream cheese has gone up from about $2.49, which was once thought to be a budget-friendly option, to about $2.99 in many places. This price increase is a result of the general inflationary pressures that are affecting the whole food business. What makes these price increases happen? One big reason is that the prices of raw products, like coffee beans, have been going up around the world. Also, costs have gone up because of a lack of workers, especially in the fast food industry. This has made it more expensive for chains like Dunkin' Donuts to run their businesses. It's starting to change how people deal with Dunkin' Donuts since the prices went up. While Dunkin' has been always known for its loyal morning customers, the company has seen a change in how often and what customers buy. According to results from a poll of customers by the National Coffee Association, some regular customers are now going to coffee shops less often or switching to cheaper menu items to deal with the price increases. Also, responses on social media sites show that people have a range of opinions. Some people understand that prices have to go up because of the economy, but others are angry because they think Dunkin' has become less friendly and charming. This feeling is especially strong among younger customers, who are more price conscious and have a lot of other coffee choices from competitors or nearby coffee shops. Moreover, did you know that in some places the price of a regular latte at Starbucks has gone up by almost 10% in the past year? Reports from reliable sources like the Wall Street Journal make it clear that Starbucks, which is known for its high-quality coffee, is having a hard time keeping up with rising costs while also protecting its brand image. The way Starbucks sets its prices represents the fact that it has always seen itself as a premium coffee shop. Customers have seen the price of a large latte go up from about $4.15 to as much as $4.55 in recent months. In order to balance out rising costs for things like coffee beans, dairy products, and running the business, which includes putting in place stricter health and safety rules in stores because of the current economic situation, this increase is part of a larger plan. There will be big effects from these price increases. Starbucks gets its coffee from more than 30 countries. The global coffee market has been unstable, with prices changing a lot because of unpredictability in the weather and political unrest in key coffee-growing areas. As prices rise, people become more aware of how much things cost. People who shop at Starbucks are loyal, but they can still be affected by price increases. Consumer surveys and close examination of social media show that some regular customers are reducing the number of times they come. Others are switching from bigger drink sizes to smaller ones or choosing cheaper drink options that can be customized. Also, more and more people are comparing Starbucks' prices to those of other coffee shops. Local coffee shops often offer better deals and unique experiences at prices that are easier on the wallet. Starbucks is in a tough spot because it wants to keep its high-end image while also catering to customers who are becoming more price careful. They've started to come up with new menu items and marketing strategies to keep customers interested and loyal in response to these problems. This means adding new seasonal drinks that can fetch higher prices and making the rewards program bigger, which is meant to encourage people to buy from them more often and spend more money. The company is also putting a lot of money into its mobile app and pre-ordering features, which will speed up the process and make it easier for customers to get their coffee without having to wait. This could help the company explain higher prices by providing better customer service. Did you know that in just 1 year, coffee prices around the world have gone up by more than 30%? It was pointed out by Bloomberg that this big increase isn't just a blip on the economic radar. It's a real trend that affects both coffee shops and customers. Coffee beans are the main ingredient in all coffee chains, but their prices have been going up because of changes in the weather and political unrest in some of the world's main coffee-producing countries. For example, Brazil is a major source of the Arabica beans that chains like Starbucks like. However, it had its worst drought in 90 years last season, which cut production by a lot and sent prices through the roof. For the same reason, social unrest has caused a lot of problems in Colombia. To understand why your morning coffee is getting more expensive, you need to know about these problems in the global supply chain. Labor costs are another big reason why coffee prices are going up. The Wall Street Journal talks about how the industry is having trouble finding workers. This is especially true after the pandemic, when many people didn't want to go back to low-paying service jobs. Companies that own coffee shops have had to raise pay to attract and keep workers. For example, Starbucks said at the end of 2021 that it would raise its minimum wage to at least $15 an hour by 2023. Even though this is good news for workers, it means that the company has to spend more on operations, which usually means that prices go up for customers. Aside from the prices of ingredients and labor, operational costs like rent, utilities, and repairs have also been going up. This is because many coffee shops are located in prime areas with a lot of foot traffic, where business lease rates are very high. Additionally, the prices of all utilities have gone up, which affects the cost of running the coffee machines, keeping the lights on, and making sure the place is nice for customers. Each of these things, the cost of ingredients, the cost of work, and the cost of running the business, is very important to how coffee chains set their prices. Because of these rising costs, the price of your coffee also goes up. There is an unavoidable point beyond which prices have to go up in order to keep the business going, even though chains try to cover some of these costs to stay competitive. Now, Bloomberg recently released the results of a poll that showed that nearly 60% of Americans have changed how often they buy coffee because of price increases. People are rethinking how they budget for and think about their coffee consumption because of these changes in buyer behavior, which shows how important rising coffee prices are. Many people are cutting back on their daily coffee runs because higher prices are hurting their wallets. Some people are now cutting back on how often they go to Starbucks and only going a few times a week. Others are reducing the number of cups they buy by choosing smaller sizes or cheaper drinks without extra flavorings or different milk choices, which can make the price per cup go up a lot. According to the Wall Street Journal, people are spending about $25 less a month on coffee from cafes and restaurants as they try to find ways to save money without giving up their coffee habit totally. There's a clear trend towards looking for cheaper options as the prices of specialty coffee keep going up. Local coffee shops, which usually have lower prices than big chain stores like Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts, are getting a lot more customers. Also, the number of people who make beer at home has grown significantly. In the past year, sales of coffee makers and espresso machines have gone up by 35%. At the same time, sales of coffee beans in stores and online have gone through the roof. More and more people are realizing that making their own coffee at home can save them a lot of money every month. Plus, they can make their coffee exactly how they like it. The way people feel about the value of coffee is also changing. According to a survey by the National Coffee Association, many people still like the convenience and atmosphere of buying coffee from a cafe. But more and more people think that the costs are becoming too high compared to the benefits, especially since there are many cheaper options available. Without question, the quality of the coffee is still the most important thing. There is, however, a clear change in the level of what is considered a fair price. More and more people are questioning whether a $5 coffee really offers a comparable level of quality and service, or if they're just paying for the brand name and the ease of the location. Over 70% of customers have cut back on their coffee sales at places like Starbucks and Dunkin' because prices are going up. In addition to showing how much higher coffee prices affect people on a budget, this interesting fact also shows how the economy affects other important areas of daily life, such as housing and healthcare. People with limited funds are more likely to spend more on basic needs, like their daily cup of coffee, so the rise in coffee prices hurts them more than other people. The rise in coffee prices is not only inconvenient, but it also puts a big strain on people who are already struggling to make ends meet. Think about people who used to treat themselves to a small pleasure by buying coffee outside of home. Now many of them have to give up this beloved habit. The Wall Street Journal pointed out that the decision to cut back on such small treats is a sign of a bigger problem. Wages haven't been growing at the same rate as costs. In other words, real wages haven't kept up with inflation, which makes it even harder for people who are already struggling to pay their bills. Increasing coffee costs have an effect that go beyond what individual consumers do. They have broader economic effects that can be felt in many areas. Inflationary trends in housing and healthcare, for example, have been very similar. Bloomberg says that over the past year, the average cost of rent in big US cities has gone up by up to 15%, while the cost of healthcare has gone up by about 12%, which is a lot more than the general increase in wages. In a way similar to the coffee business, these industries are necessary for everyday life, and their rising costs add to the overall economic problems. Because these financial problems are linked, when people put more money into basic living costs, they have less extra money to spend on other things. This can lead to a drop in general economic activity, which slows down growth. So the effects of rising coffee prices on the economy can be seen as a small version of how inflation affects the economy as a whole. For customers, the choice between enjoying a cup of coffee and paying for things like rent or medicine becomes more and more clear. The situation shows how the gap between rising wages and the cost of living is getting bigger. This gap is getting bigger all the time, which affects not only people's standard of living, but also the economic security of communities. In the next few years, coffee prices are likely to keep going up. This is because of things like climate change that affects coffee-growing areas and rising demand around the world. Bloomberg analysts think that the cost of labor and shipping will cause coffee prices to rise by 10 to 15% over the next 2 to 3 years. As the world's middle class grows, so does the desire for coffee, which drives up prices even more. To deal with these problems, coffee chains are starting to give more than just coffee and focusing on being more environmentally friendly. They're also using technology to cut costs and improve performance. In a larger economic sense, this trend shows that coffee prices are more than just a morning habit. They show how global economic forces are changing our world. If you found this information valuable, consider subscribing to our channel for more updates on economic trends and consumer insights. Don't forget to like this video and hit the bell icon to receive notifications whenever we post new content.